There is a tunnel in southern Japan with a message scratched into the rock. It says the laws of Japan end here. And in 1988, right there, a 20-year-old man was dragged from his car and killed at the tunnel's mouth, and the sealed walls threw the sound back into the dark. We know how that sounds. You probably cannot picture a place like that being real. It is. So I spent weeks going down Reddit threads on the creepiest places in Japan, the ones locals warn travelers away from and leave off the maps on purpose. The same names kept coming up. 15 of them, a stage of women cut loose above a gorge, a whole town that stopped dead at a single second, 15 places, and Japan wishes you would forget everyone. Number 15. A man is in his trunk. The car is climbing a mountain road he cannot see. When it stops, he is at the mouth of a sealed tunnel, and the people who dragged him there have brought gasoline. That is not a legend. On December 7th, 1988, the burned body of a 20-year-old factory worker was found at the Inunaki Pass in Fukuoka. A group of teenagers had taken his car, beaten him with wrenches, and killed him at the old tunnel because the echo meant no one would hear. The judge at the appeal called the cruelty unlike anything he had seen. The old Inunaki tunnel was finished in 1949 and sealed shut decades ago. And this is where the real crime grew a second skin. In the 90s, a story spread online about a hidden village past the tunnel, a place that flies its own flag and rejects the Japanese constitution, where outsiders do not come back. That last part is pure internet myth, born on a message board, not in any police file, but people still go looking anyway. That tunnel needed a legend to stay frightening. What comes next needed nothing at all. 55 women were sent into the water on purpose. Number 14. Picture a wooden stage built out over a gorge. On it, 55 women in full dress, dancing because they have been told there is a party. Below them, nothing but the drop and the river. This is Oiran Buchi in Yamanashi, the courtesan's abyss. The story goes back to the Takeda clan in the 1500s, who ran a secret gold mine in these mountains and used the women to entertain the miners. When the gold ran dry, the mine had one problem left. The women knew where it was, so the men built the stage and invited the women up to rehearse a thank you dance. And then it happens. The women dance, the men cut the supports, the platform drops, all 55 into the gorge at once. Now, there is no death record for those 55 women. What there is a place people have refused to build near for 400 years, and a name that never changed. Sometimes the absence of a record is the loudest part. You cannot fact-check a river. But the next place, people tried to fact-check, and what they found is stranger than the ghost story. If this is the kind of hidden Japan you want more of, go ahead and subscribe, because digging up the real history under these places is the only thing this channel does. Number 13. A young woman stands in the center of a room. Ropes are tied to her wrists, her ankles, her neck, and pulled slowly in different directions. They call it the strangling ritual, and the family does it once every 50 years to keep something sealed. You may have heard this one, a cursed mansion outside Tokyo, a rite gone wrong, a whole family found dead. It is one of the most retold horror stories in Japan. Here is the twist. None of it is real. There is no Himuro family, no strangling ritual, no massacre. The whole thing was written for a horror video game in 2001, and the American version was sold with the words based on a true story stamped on the box. That single lie escaped the game and became folklore. There are no police reports, no newspaper, no graves. So decide which is creepier, that a family did this, or that a marketing line convinced a country It remembered something that never happened. The next place is the opposite problem. Everyone knows exactly what it is. It is a door to the dead, and it is still open. Number 12. The smell hits you before anything else. Rotten eggs, sulfur, thick enough to taste. The ground is grey and blistered, steam pushing up through cracks, and there is no birdsong at all. People built a temple here on purpose. This is Mount Osore in Aomori. The name means Fear Mountain, and it sits inside the crater of a volcano that Japanese belief calls one of the gates to the underworld. That is belief, not geology, but stand on that grey plain and you will not argue. Pilgrims come to a riverbank they say souls must cross, and they stack small stones for children who died, because the legend says the children are trapped, stacking them forever. And once a year, blind women called Itako sit here and say they will let you speak to your dead. There are only about 20 of them left in the world. The warning about Osore-zan was never about getting in. It is about what might answer you when you try to speak to the dead. We have earned a breath after that one, so the one coming up is going to sound almost gentle. Almost. Number 11. Okay, I need to be straight with you for a second. We have spent this whole list on murder and poison and a door to the dead. This next one is different. There is no body here. It is, and I cannot believe I am saying this on this channel, a little bit sweet. On July 1st, 1961, a Japanese businessman opened his own Disneyland, Nara Dreamland. He had gone to California, fallen in love with it, and come home to build his own, street for street, castle for castle, right down to a Sleeping Beauty castle. When the Disney deal fell through, he gave it his own mascots and opened anyway. For 20 years it worked. Then the real Tokyo Disneyland opened in 1983, and the children stopped coming. It closed in 2006, and for 10 years it just sat there. The castle bleaching in the sun, the roller coaster rusting over an empty parking lot, until they finally tore it down. A man built a dream to outlast him. It outlasted him by 10 years, then went in a landfill. Alright, breath over, cause where we go next there are two real bodies. Number 10. A professor drives up a quiet hill outside Tokyo with a young woman in the passenger seat. Only he comes back down. The Doryodo temple in Hachioji was already a place people avoided, but two real crimes sealed it. In 1963, the temple's 82-year-old caretaker was robbed and murdered on the grounds. Then, in 1973, a university professor took a student he had been secretly involved with, strangled her, and buried her body near the temple. When the affair came out, he killed his own family and then himself. Her body was not found for 7 months. After that, the people nearby started reporting a young woman's voice in the trees at night, not moaning, calling out, "Here, I am here," which is exactly what a body says when no one has found it yet. The temple was torn down in 1983, and the hillside turned into a public park, the way Japan so often paves over the thing it does not want to look at. Speaking of things buried under construction, the next place has bodies in the walls, and the men who built it were never paid. Number 9. The workers are digging through a mountain by hand, no pay, no rest, and when one of them drops, the tunnel keeps moving forward without him. Kiyotaki Tunnel near Kyoto was cut in 1927, and it was cut by Korean laborers working in conditions so brutal that an Osaka newspaper reported 50 of them rising up against the site in 1928. Men died here from exhaustion and accidents, and then the town quietly forgot they had ever come. Drivers say the tunnel is exactly 444 meters long, and 4 in Japanese is the sound of the word for death, so a tunnel that is triple death is the worst possible number. The truth is, the survey does not match that story. The 444 is folklore. But the mirror on your car, the one people swear shows a face that is not in your seat, that legend they will tell you to your face before you drive in. The horror here is not the mirror. It is that a country built a road on people and then agreed together to forget them. Hold on to that word, forget, because the next place, Japan did not just forget, it took an entire island off the map.
Number 8. A worker pulls off his mask at the end of a shift, and his skin is blistering, and he has been told, on paper, that he is making fertilizer. Remember this island. From 1929 to 1945, on Okunoshima in the inland sea, the Japanese army made poison gas. Over 6,000 tons of mustard gas, on an island so secret that the government erased it from its own maps, so no enemy and no citizen would know it was there. The workers were not told what they were breathing. Many carried the damage in their lungs for the rest of their lives and stayed silent for decades before the government would even help them. Keep that in your head, a place Japan wiped off the map to hide what it did. It happens again before we reach number 1. And the part nobody can soften is this. Today, Okunoshima is covered in wild rabbits, hundreds of them, and tourists take selfies feeding them on the exact ground where the gas was made, a petting zoo on a war crime. Somewhere else, another man broke ground he should have left alone, and the workers who built it for him started to die. Number 7. The developer stands on his half-built hotel and swears he will sleep here every night until it is finished. 3 nights later, they take him away, and he does not come back the same. On a hill in Okinawa, about 150 feet, 50 meters, from a 500-year-old castle, a businessman started building a luxury hotel in the 1970s. Monks from a nearby temple warned him. The ground held old graves and sacred sites, they said, and to build on it was a desecration. He ignored them. Then the accident started. Workers died on the site, one after another, in ways that spooked the crews so badly that they walked off the job and refused to come back. The developer, the story goes, tried to prove them wrong by sleeping there alone. He lasted 3 nights, then lost his mind, and depending on who tells it, was committed or took his own life. That last part is the kind of thing people repeat, not something anyone can prove. What is real is the shell they left behind, a hotel that was never finished, never opened, standing over a castle for 40 years until it too was finally torn down. The place after this was not almost empty. It was a full city of 15,000 people. Then, in a single season, every one of them was gone. Number 6. 15,000 people living in a city in the clouds, and then, almost overnight, nobody. High in the mountains of Iwate, wrapped in fog so thick the town could barely be seen, Matsuo was once the largest sulfur mine in East Asia. From 1914, it grew into a full city, concrete apartment blocks with central heating and flushing toilets. Luxuries most of Japan did not have yet, 15,000 people living above the cloud line. Then the sulfur business collapsed. The company went bankrupt at the end of the 60s. The mine closed, and there was no reason for a city on a freezing mountain to exist anymore. Everyone left. What they left behind is 11 concrete blocks, slowly rotting in acidic fog, the metal bleeding orange down the walls, so bleak that people who go there call it the real Silent Hill. There was no massacre at Matsuo. The horror is the speed. A whole city, full and warm and modern, emptied out in a single generation and handed back to the fog. Fog and forgetting is the pattern here. At the place we are going now, an entire castle of women chose the drop over what was climbing the hill toward them.
Number 5. The castle is falling. The men who could fight are somewhere else, and the ones left on the mountain can already hear the enemy on the walls. The women gather at the top of the waterfall. In 1590, the warlord Toyotomi Hideyoshi sent an army of 50,000 against Hachioji Castle, held that day by barely 1,300 defenders. The castle fell in a single day, and the legend says that when it was clear the fight was lost, the women and children inside went to the waterfall and threw themselves into it rather than be taken, and that the water ran red for 3 days. Now, historians today doubt the red water. The siege is real, the slaughter is real. The doubt is only about that last detail. But go to that waterfall at dusk and ask the locals what they hear on the anniversary. They will tell you the mountain still keeps the day. That is a battle 4 centuries gone. The next one executed men in living memory. Then it built a shopping mall on top of them. Number 4, 60 floors of shops, offices, and tourists sit stacked in a Tokyo skyscraper. And directly under the ground floor is the spot where they hang the men who ran a war. Sunshine 60 opened in 1978 as the tallest building in Japan. Before it, on that exact land, stood Sugamo Prison. And inside Sugamo, on December 23, 1948, 7 men were executed for their part in the Second World War, including the wartime Prime Minister, Hideki Tojo. 51 more war criminals were put to death on that site, and hundreds more served their sentences there. They tore the prison down in 1971 and put a shining tower and a mall on the spot, with a small stone in a nearby park, the only marker that any of it happened. Staff in the lower levels have talked for years about sounds and figures in the basement, the parts of the building closest to the old ground. You can buy an ice cream today, standing above a gallows. That is Tokyo. It builds up so fast it forgets what it is standing on. This time, nobody built anything at all. People just walked in and did not walk out the same. And I have to handle this one carefully. Number 3, there is a forest at the foot of Mount Fuji, so dense and so quiet that the lava rock underfoot swallows sound. And a few steps off the trail, you cannot tell which way you came in. This is Aokigahara, the Sea of Trees. It grew on hardened lava from an eruption in the year 864, 12 square miles, about 30 square kilometers, of forest so thick that compasses wander and the silence feels physical. And it has carried a reputation for the dead for a very long time. In Japanese belief, the forest is home to yurei, the spirits of people who died with something unfinished, unable to move on. Long before the modern reputation, there is a much older story, ubasute, the practice in times of famine of carrying the old and the sick deep into the mountains and leaving them there to die. No one can actually prove it happened in this forest, but the belief that it did has clung to these trees for centuries, and the idea of people led in and not brought back is the oldest fear the place holds. Japan has worked hard on this forest, with patrols and signs and people whose whole job is to walk in and gently walk others back out. The trees are beautiful. That is almost the worst part. Before the last place, take a breath. Because number 1 is where all of this, the labor, the water, the forgetting comes together on a single rock in the sea. Number 2, a clock on a wall stopped at the moment everyone ran. A meal still on a table. A whole town and not one living person in it. On March 11th, 2011, the earthquake and tsunami wrecked the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant, and within a day, the towns around it, Futaba, Nami, the whole ring inside 12 miles, about 20 kilometers, were ordered out. Everyone, all at once. People grabbed what they could carry and drove, thinking they would be back in a few days. They were not back in a few days. Some were not back for 11 years. The towns sat sealed behind checkpoints, the shops full, the homework still on the school desks, weeds coming up through the streets while radiation made the place uninhabitable. And this is the second time. Okunoshima, Japan erased to hide a weapon. Futaba, Japan sealed to survive one. 2 towns wiped off the living map inside a single century, one on purpose, one by accident, both frozen at the exact second the people left. Only a fraction of Futaba has reopened. Most who left are never going back, which brings us, finally, to the place they can never let anyone truly live again, and the one Japan spent the longest trying to keep off the record. Before we get to number 1, do me one quick favor and tap that like button. I am just getting this channel off the ground, and it really helps more than you would think. Number 1. A man slips into the black water at night and starts to swim for the mainland. 11 miles, about 18 kilometers, of open sea because he has decided that drowning is better than one more shift on the island. Many who tried did drown. This is Hashima off Nagasaki, the one everyone calls Gunkanjima, battleship island, because from the water the wall of concrete looks like a warship. And of every place I dug into, this is the name that came up in almost every Reddit thread I opened. It was a coal mine, and under the Second World War it ran on forced labor. Conscripted Korean workers and Chinese prisoners were sent 3,000 feet, about 1,000 meters, under the seabed, 12 hours a day, in heat and wet that broke bodies fast. Records put more than 1,400 Korean and 700 Chinese laborers dead on that rock, from the mine, from the conditions, from the sea when they tried to escape it. When the coal ran out in 1974, the company left and the island emptied in weeks. And here is the pattern finishing itself. Okunoshima erased from the map. Futaba sealed off the map. Gunkanjima, they could not hide the island, so they hid what happened on it. Japan had it named a World Heritage Site for its industry, and the people who died in the tunnels were nearly left off the record entirely. You can visit now, a small deck, a guide, a rope you cannot cross. Most of the island is condemned, collapsing into the water it stands in. It is the most photographed ruin in Japan, and almost nobody who takes the picture knows they are standing over a grave. This is the thing I keep coming back to after all of these. None of these places is frightening because of a ghost. They are frightening because they are true, and because a country this careful, this clean, this good at moving forward has this many rooms it has quietly locked and walked away from. A place is only haunted if someone remembers. What actually scares me is the opposite. The map that gets redrawn, the tower that goes up, the name that changes, until the thing that happened has nowhere left to live except a story strangers pass around online. So here is my question for you. When the last person who remembers is gone, is the place still haunted? Tell me below.